Here's Ed. Okay, is Jason joining the meeting?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know,
Meeting is
Tim.
being-
okay. All right, well, why don't we just give one more minute? It's just 7 o'clock. The gardeners are always very prompt. Of course. And then we'll,
Particularly when we're asking for money.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
I've actually been here for 2 hours.
Okay, all right, well, Gil can catch up with us. He doesn't come until later in the meeting anyway, so, all right, Mike, I will begin.
Sorry.
Okay, so welcome everybody to the February 17th meeting of the 6th Taxing District on Zoom. Present are the 3 commissioners, Mike Barbas, John McNary, Tammy Lingalis, District Property Manager Ed Carlson, and District Clerk Andrea Woodworth. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from the January meeting. Did my fellow commissioners have an opportunity to review? And if so, do you have any corrections, questions?
John's muted.
John, you're muted.
I said no questions.
Mike went somewhere.
Okay,
No,
Mike,
I'm here.
okay.
I'm here.
Any corrections on the minutes? I don't have any. I read them and I didn't, I don't have any corrections.
That's
Oh, and
good.
here's Gil.
Oh, good, okay. All right, and then barring no corrections, do I have a motion to approve the January minutes as submitted, please?
So
Yes, you
move.
do.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to do new business first, and first up on the agenda is the Rowayton Gardeners. They've come to do a little presentation, and I have also been asked by Pamela Proctor, sorry to butt into your presentation, ladies, about a meadow type garden in the lower area of the field between the dog park and the stone wall, kind of past what they call fairyland. The commissioners and I have not had any opportunity to discuss that idea, so I'm not going to be able to give you any information or opinion on that this evening, but I know spring is coming, but I think we have a little bit of time before we put any seeds in the ground. Okay, so Kathy or Betsy or Lynn,
Yeah.
whoever is presenting, go right ahead.
Kathy.
Okay, commissioners, members of the district staff, and fellow community members, the Rowayton Gardeners recently submitted a grant application in the amount of 2,000. Oops, Gary, excuse me, I have a cat.
It's okay.
Down you go. Of $2,000 for repairs and refinishing needed at the potting shed greenhouse. You'll recall that we just replaced the overhead door in a collaborative effort with the district, and it's been a wonderful addition. But we've given it some scrutiny as a result of that repair, and there is much more to be done. This work will include sanding and painting of the greenhouse roof's metal structure, refinishing the original woodwork on the garden door along with its portico and edging, both of which are historic, and a full inspection and repair of the seam between the roof and the walls of the greenhouse and cafe, where we have a significant leak when there is heavy rain. Installing flashing and caulking as appropriate and necessary to ensure watertight joints. Oh, God, excuse me. Don't pay attention to that cat behind me, okay?
We can't even see him, don't worry.
Oh, good. All of this work will be completed both, number one, to prevent further deterioration of this historic gem of a building, and number two, hopefully, in preparation for the district's full replacement of the greenhouse roof in July or August of this coming fiscal year. We've worked with the district staff to secure several proposals for the roof repair and replacement, and stand ready to collaborate on the project just as we have on the electric upgrade in recent years, and then in the overhead door last year. The existing green corrugated fiberglass, in case any of you have attachments to it, is neither sound nor attractive and nor in any way historic. And we've talked to John and to Rob Frazier about this to ascertain how we would notify the people that gave us all the money the number of years ago to do repairs and upgrades on the historic buildings. That he both felt that there would be no problem, that they would love to see the green gone and probably a polycarbonate clear or a bronze tint put in its place. Our feeling is that this is the time. We've talked about it for several years with the commissioners and with the district staff. Last year, trying to clean it, brought up other issues, and we have been fully alerted to the fact that it's not in good shape. And we'd love to take part in the project with you. And we need the $2,000 to prep the area for a new roof or simply to shore up what we have now. Thank you for your consideration of our application and for allowing us to continue to maintain and improve the building and the grounds. It continues to be a beloved space and unique asset to our community. And that is thanks to our collaborative efforts. We love being there. We love being tenants and we love being partners.
Can I ask a question of Ed?
Sure.
Because when discussing when the fiberglass, the green fiberglass was put on, I believe that it was there when the district bought the property in the 60s. And it was probably Rand Corporation that put the fiberglass on it during their ownership after the Farrells. Am I correct, Ed?
Yeah, I think so, Betsy. I believe it was there when the district bought the property in '65. I remember years and years ago from growing up around there and going through there when I was a kid, that there was glass on the greenhouse, but it was in pretty bad shape. It was, it was before the district bought it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're correct. It's been there as long as I've worked for the town.
Yeah, so it's like 50, 60 years at least the age of the roof.
Right.
A little bit past the lifespan of fiberglass roofs.
Okay, Kathy or Betsy, in the request that you're asking for the repairs, that you think you want to get done in July of 2021, not before that?
Well, we could spend as we have done in the past. We could do it earlier. I prefer to do it earlier using our money and then replenish those funds with the district check when it can come in.
And is there a leak presently that under normal circumstances, not in circumstances of extreme weather?
There is not a major leak, and we've moved things away. It's a fairly rustic space anyway. We've moved the certificates and things that were hanging on that wall. I think we can last until the repairs can take place without any immediate mediation. So, but it needs to be corrected.
In one of the discussions that I took part with one of the contractors, summer months were the better time, and our downtime for activities at the potting shed is between, is July and August, and then they don't start up again until late September. So the ideal time for having the roof replacement would be in those 2 months.
Okay. All right. Do either of the commissioners have any questions for the gardeners?
I mean, we're in agreement that we want to do this and this needs to be done. I thought there was some debate that there wasn't really an active leak and maybe there were other ways of approaching this, but I don't remember any details.
In an ideal world, the leak is at the connection between the greenhouse section and the potting shed section, that cement wall. So ideally, if we could manage through until the roof was replaced and then the flashing and all that occurs at that time, rather than trying to do flashing there and then having it ripped apart by the contractor coming in and removing the fiberglass. So from a construction standpoint, and Ed, you can speak to this, it seems to make sense to do that at the same time rather than before. As far as prepping and painting of the woodwork and the metal structure, that should be done before in anticipation of the roof removal.
Do you feel it could hold out for a few more years?
No. No, she said.
No, she said, okay.
Ed, did you get estimates on how much it would cost to replace that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jason did get one and I got one, and I think we had another in the works. I'm not sure if he ultimately got that.
Not
Yeah,
yet.
Jason was working with the garden club on those estimates. I think it was, one was around 14,000, I think, or 12,000, 12 to 14,000.
Right.
And what will you be replacing it with?
With a polycarbonate, either the clear or the bronze color.
Okay,
Is polycarbonate, obviously, it's not glass, it's in
No.
layman's terms, plastic?
It's a plastic, yes.
But it's a very, it's greatly preferred over fiberglass, certainly.
Yes.
And is far more durable, easier to work with, and attractive. I mean, it really does look like glass.
I have some samples here if anybody
Lynn,
wants to see them.
Sure.
Lynn Anderson is on in our board, and she is also, her husband is in construction. She's my go-to person for things like this. She did have a session with the people who maintain the greenhouse at Nielsen's Florist in Darien. And these were the samples that they gave us.
Okay, I've got two unwrapped. This is the bronze.
We're looking at bronze mainly because, and this is yet to be determined, but if we put clear glass in there, it's going to be very, very hot.
Mm.
The only really good feature of the green roof was that it was shady.
Yeah.
But we can do it in degrees of bronze, I believe. And it really does look very good next to the brown.
And then there's the
Hey.
opaque version, which shows, it's kind of hard to see in this light, but, and they are baffled. I don't know if that can be seen at this level, but.
They look very reflective, like a mirror. Is that true, or is that just the camera?
The outside of the clear is very shiny, so it is a certain amount of reflection involved in that. Even in the bronze.
Mhm.
But with the baffles, there's a certain amount of insulation between heat and cold.
Okay.
very good.
All right. Well, thank you for your presentation, unless anybody has any other questions. We're all set then? Okay.
Fine
All
with
right, thank you very much. Then that's it for new business. The next item is the sidewalk status, and this is really coming from the city. I'm on the planning commission, and last night the planning commission reviewed the capital budget which the process is the different departments submit what they are requesting for capital. Then the finance department makes some recommendations, and then the planning commission gets an opportunity to go back and change what the finance recommendation is. And then it goes back to the common council and the mayor. It's a back and forth sort of thing. So anyway, with regard to their 2 sidewalk projects that the Department of Public Works have submitted in Rowayton. One is Rowayton Avenue, basically from the light at Cudlip coming toward Pinckney Park, and perhaps, but nobody can give us a clear definition on this, whether going up from the light at the intersection of Cudlip toward Jacob Street. But anyway, the Public Works originally submitted a request of $150,000 for the sidewalk there. When it went to the finance department, they cut it down to 50,000. And then last night, the planning commission voted to increase it back to 100,000, not 150. I was overruled. Sorry, I tried. And so we won't know whether that's what's going to happen until the budget is passed. Hopefully the Common Council will approve it. I know that our Common Council representatives are in favor of the work. And then just long-term, further out into the future, we've been asking for a number of years for the sidewalk, or for a sidewalk to be built from Highland Avenue down Witch, continuing on Hunt Street out to Rowayton Avenue. And money has been put in the budget. Long-term, it's a $500,000 project. There was 50,000 put in a year ago for design money, but that 500,000 is now in the 23-24 capital project budget. And, you know, so it's definitely not going to be next year, the year after, and who knows if it's going to be in the year after, but at least the money continues to be there. So hopefully we'll be able to get that project done before I'm a grandmother. So does anybody have any questions on that? Yes, Betsy.
Tammy, you said that money was in the budget for between the Cudlip, Rowayton Avenue Light and Pinckney Park. Is that what you said?
Yes, well, that's where the city wants to focus the sidewalk, because they feel it's a greatest need right there, kind of coming around the bend across the street from United Church. It's very dangerous.
Yeah,
And a
no,
lot
I
of
can,
people walk to the train station that way.
I concur with that. However, it's a state road. So will the state allow that work? Sort of like what they did between Covewood and Highland Avenue?
Well, after sort of denying some residents who requested to install sidewalks in front of their own properties there, the city kept asking the state, and they have somewhat acquiesced to the city's request, of course, at the city's expense, not at the state's. And it would have made perfectly good sense to do that work while they were repaving the road this past year, but that's the state for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, anybody else on that?
Just wondering, Tammy, at this meeting last night, did you meet the 2 new people we hired from Stamford? Because I understand they're supposed to be studying sidewalks and having all sorts of great ideas.
Well, the gentleman that's coming from Stanford was mentioned a number of times as we talk through some other DPW projects, and that people thought maybe certain projects should be put on hold. Like right now, there's a DPW proposal to do a light at the entrance to I-95 on Scribner Avenue. And that's sort of a quagmire there, but all the planning commission is opposed to it. We think that there should just be some sort of stop sign intersection there that would really facilitate a better flow of traffic rather than getting people backed up all the way out to the post road. But that the new person whose name I'm not sure of right at the moment, he was not on the call, no. And neither was anybody from DPW or any of the other departments. It was just with Dakowitz, you know, from the chief financial officer, Henry. So. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so then moving on, we go to old business, and I see there's some people from pickleball here on the call. How's it going, Drew and Chris? Are you part of that too? Anyway, so Mike.
I'd love to
has
have
kind
Chris to be part of it, but he's not actively, no.
Okay, so Mike has been a little bit more in communication with you about this than I have, but given the pandemic, how is your progress coming along for using the far end of the westbound side at the railroad station for your pickleball experiment?
Yeah, thank you. We've made some good progress, I think. We've formed a group of people to basically begin the formation of the Rowayton pickleball group. As I mentioned in our last discussion, the sort of general plan is to follow the same kind of format that the Rowayton Tennis Association and the Rowayton Paddle Tennis Association have followed. I have asked a group of people to help me form a board to form a formal association and so forth, which you have to do to be able to have a bank account and buy insurance and so forth. So the people that have agreed are Tim Widmer, Sue Powell, Andrea Gottlieb, Tyler Griggs, and Kim Hyde. As we've talked about, our plan is to put the course on the New York bound side at the far, far end, hoping that, that would be the last place when people start to go back commuting that people would want to park. Our current thinking is that we'll start with 3 courts. The court size is actually the same. The court itself is the same size as a paddle tennis court, for those of you that know that. The size they recommend, including around the court, is 30 by 60. So what we've sort of mapped it out a little bit, and if we put it on the track side, it will still allow room that the Metro North trucks that need to get down, to those gates at the far end will still be able to get by the course and get there. We plan to put tape down for the lines. We've used that in our neighborhood and it's worked really well. They've stayed very well, and if you need them to come up, which we will eventually need them to come up, it's not going to be a ridiculously hard thing to get them to come up. I did talk to Mike and then to Jason about the possibility of temporarily painting over the parking lines, because if you think about it, you've got these 20-foot long parking lines coming out, and try to run courts around them will be confusing. Jason's thought was that as long as we reserved money to have a company come in and repaint those lines when we're exiting the parking lot, that he would be okay with it. And so I'm hoping the commissioners would support that as well. We are planning to rent, if you're familiar with those temporary construction fences that are used, sometimes actually on Rowayton Ave right now, there's some that are installed where that construction is going to happen. But they have them that they don't get installed into the ground. They're basically on feet, if you will. And so the idea is to use those to basically demarc the courts and create a situation where people aren't having to run across the parking lot chasing balls as they get hit between courts and so forth. We've looked into acquiring a court reservation similar, an online court reservation system similar to what the RTA and RPTA use. We probably will not wind up using the same one. We think we found one that's a little more user-friendly and has an iPhone and an Android app that you don't have to log in to all the time. But one of our overall things is trying to keep our costs very low so that we can keep the membership cost down. We're looking to try to do a very, very low cost membership so that it basically is a no-brainer for everyone in Rowayton to want to join and come try it out. I sent, I didn't send, but you all were nice enough to allow us to include a note about the pickleball situation in the last taxing district email blast. And I got, there was a thing that, if you wanted to get in more information, to email an email address that came to me. And I got almost 50 responses, which if you think about it, for people to take the time to click on a link and write an email. I was really excited about that. You add that to the 50 or so people that wrote on the Nextdoor post last summer, plus another, 25 or 30 people that have reached out to me. I think there's a very strong demand for that. We also plan to look for people to be, what we're going to call founding members, basically asking people that are willing to put up some extra money to help support pickleball getting started in Rowayton, to give a facility for them to do that, and also to solicit some sponsorships from local businesses. Again, trying to raise some money to cover some of these costs so that we can keep the membership fee very, very low, especially for this first year. We probably look to put some, very discreet banners around the courts to recognize those organizations and people that have been willing to put some extra money up. Our goal is to start playing in early April and to have an event like a come play pickleball kind of event, very casual. People that have never played can come out and just try it out, and get the feeling of what it's like. It's a very, one of the things that I like about it is it's a very easy to learn kind of sport. I would describe it as much less complicated than even tennis or paddle tennis. So it's something that people can readily play, as families as well. All right, Tammy, I can't hear you.
There you go. I'm subjecting myself to learning how to play pickleball at the moment, inside over at the Darien Parks and Recs. And the game itself doesn't seem too bad, but the scoring is a whole another can of worms.
Yeah, you got the way they do the scoring is you say what your score, the server, then the non-server, then which person is serving. So it gets very confusing. That's probably the hardest thing about the game.
Okay. Well, anyway, I have a couple of questions for you, and maybe the other commissioners do as well. How are you lining up these three courts, or how do you anticipate lining up these three courts? Because I'm concerned about the access for Metro North.
Yes, I am as well.
Or DOT.
So the courts, we're talking about putting the narrow side, if you will, out from the tracks. So the idea is to put them on the railroad track side. Mm-hmm. The fences would basically be about 30 feet off the curb, if you will. Mm-hmm. So there's still, I actually wish I had the dimension. I can send you a picture if you want. What I did was I took a Google Maps screenshot of the parking lot, and then the paddle tennis courts are the exact same size. Mm-hmm. And so I did a screenshot of those. If you wanted, I could bring that up. If you wanted me to share the screen, I could do it right now if you want, or I can email it to you.
Well, sure. I mean, if you have it and you can share the screen, because are you going along the side where the tracks are 1, 2, 3? And
yes.
And you're
so
in how many parking spaces?
The short side sticking out, if you will.
Okay. So if you're serving, are you facing east-west or north-south?
East-west.
East-west. Okay, I've got it then. And then how many parking spaces is that going to take?
So each court would be about 7 parking spaces.
Okay.
So the 3 courts. So if you want, I don't know who the host is, but if the host wants to give me screen sharing capabilities, I can share this screen.
I just tried to do it, Drew, and the only option I can find.
Choose the multiple people can share their screen. That's the option to choose.
All right. Well, anyway, I'll keep asking my questions. I'm starting to visualize this. So you are taking approximately, let's just say 21, 2 or 3 parking spaces.
Yeah.
And then, which right now is completely fine. And then if you have 4 people playing on each team, then you're going to need at least 12 parking spaces. So my sort of long-term concern is if this gets really popular, and we will get past the pandemic at some point in time, that you're going to be taking up, close to 30 parking spaces, 40 parking spaces. And that right now is very doable, but in the long run, it might not be so doable. So, and also I
Take
don't
these
want,
down. So the idea, Tammy, would be that if we had to, we can take these down at any point.
okay, yep.
So
And I also
you
don't
should
want
be
you
able,
guys
can
to
you
get
see the screen
tickets.
now?
Yes, I can see it.
So this is showing 4 courts. And, you know, the group of us went back and forth on whether we should do 2, 3, or 4. And we decided that we would start with 3. You know, we may or may not need 3, but we figured that the cost difference for us of 2 versus 3 is not significant. And so we'd rather do 3. We don't know that we need 4, so we didn't think it made sense. But this shows 4 from a landmark standpoint, where my mouse is right here.
Mhm.
If you look, if you can see where my mouse is going, that there's a stanchion right here. If you were to go out to the train station, here's the handicap ramp.
Yep.
And then there's a stanchion here. So even if we had 4 courts, we're pretty far away from this stanchion still, and 3 would be very far down. And you can see that there's, you know, a good bit of space, you know, still for trucks to get past.
Yes. And this is actually a photograph of the old parking lot with all the cracks in it.
Yes.
So these are, I'm just, you know, voicing some concerns, because if this happens and it's long-term, I'm also worried that people that are coming to play don't get a parking ticket. And then, you know, there's stuff. So as there always is. And I'm sure, you know, Ed and Jason have thought about this. Also, I'm just thinking
I
to
have a
save you
question.
some money, would it be cheaper for you to just tape over the yellow lines? I mean, the courts that I'm playing on over in Darien have a basketball court. They've got so many other things as well, and I'm able to handle it. So if I can, I would imagine that most, you know, professional pickleball players would be able to not be distracted by the parking line. But it just might save you some cost and us some aggravation in the long run.
Ed, you said you had a question as well.
Yeah, I do. Drew, I haven't, are you, 30 feet is the width?
Yes, sir.
So you're not going to block that access to that Metro North gate?
No, so, you know, our plan is to, you know, if let me go back to
I
sharing.
did see it on the screen sharing.
So, you know, I mean, we haven't laid these out, right? This is an approximation. But if you notice, what I didn't do is I didn't go all the way to the corner. And these trees, you know, the parking lot is fairly rectangular here.
Right.
So the idea, you know, I'm very cognizant of the fact that those trucks are going to need to get in there. And,
Because sometimes
You
they
know-
have some large equipment come through there.
yeah, and I don't imagine they're really forgiving people generally.
They are
So,
not. They are not.
you know, I'm figuring that we need to be very careful to make sure that they have the access they need.
Right. The other question I had, you mentioned about this portable construction fence, portable fence. My question on that is, can that be anchored? I know those sections just lift off from the base. My concern on that, and I would check before you go and order fence or anything, check with Metro North, because they may have concern about vandalism and people, when you people aren't there or whatever, coming up and picking up those sections and throwing them on the tracks.
Huh. Do you have a
You know, that's
contact? I mean,
something to think
you know, I
about.
wouldn't know who to begin to talk to at Metro North about that. Does anybody
I
have a
can-
contact?
I could, yeah, I have some numbers. I can send you
Okay.
those.
Okay, that'd
But
be
yeah,
great.
you really should before, you know, cover all your bases before you go ahead and, you know, have a company come up there and then Metro North Police, you know, they're there a lot. They're
Yeah.
there almost every day.
Yeah.
And they, you know, I just to caution, you know, because that would be something that I would be concerned with, that, you know, the lot is not, we're not guarding it all the time. It is,
Right.
there is cameras there, but they don't go down that far.
Yeah.
The cameras we have just go at the guard shed and a short distance.
No, we're very concerned about that. And, you know, we want to be aware that there are, you know, other homes nearby. And so that's why we were putting it on the track side, not on the
Right.
from the
So-
tracks. just
so
trying to
the other
put it
thing
away
too-
From those homes as far as we can.
So you're gonna butt up against the fence by the track.
That was the idea.
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with pickleball and how active it gets, but if a ball goes over that fence onto the tracks,
So we're gonna, we're looking to have taller fences. We thought about that
okay,
as
all
well.
right. Well, I would,
You
I'll
know,
send you
I'm
those
sure
numbers.
that, somebody could, we're not gonna have a roof over it, right? So somebody
No, I know.
theoretically, hit it into the courts or into the tracks. And,
Right.
it's, think of it as a wiffle ball. Right,
Well,
so
okay. All right.
it's
Oh,
not
I
gonna
see,
be
okay.
something that's gonna hurt a train.
No,
But,
I know
the
that.
last thing we would want is somebody climbing over a fence to try to go get one of
That's
their
right.
balls, but
That's
they're
right.
not
because
super
that's
expensive either.
That's railroad property.
Yeah,
And
they're not super expensive. I would hope somebody wouldn't be so stupid.
no, I know. I'm just trying to, in my mind, get some.
I
answers.
totally get it.
Okay,
know,
I will send you those
I'm
numbers on
trying to,
Metro North.
myself and the group of us are trying to be really thoughtful about how we approach this.
It's good. I think it's a great idea.
I'm not trying to say we've thought of every eventuality, so please,
No, but
bring these things up. But one of the things that came up the other day is a bathroom, and I messaged Mike and said, "Hey, Mike, what about the bathroom at the train station?" He said that you guys have that locked at this point.
right.
If you're not
Right.
willing to open that up, then what we'd probably have to do
There's
is,
nobody maintaining it right now.
okay.
Yeah,
So then what we probably do is put a porta potty in if you're okay with that.
Yeah, we've had porta potties there, sure.
Yeah.
right, but that would have to be at your expense as well. And sorry, we can't just open the station house to you because, potential vandalism. We can't give you the
Yep.
key. We're responsible. So,
Yep.
and hopefully, people are only there for an hour or two. I don't know how long you actually play pickleball for, but I understand it'd be nice to have a bathroom, but you
Yeah.
might have to start without one, and then maybe
Yeah.
you get to add one.
Yeah. Well, it also depends, how many people join, right? If I recognize that it's easy for people to say, yes, we want this, right? But, now we're going to ask people to put their credit card number in and actually pay for it. And, if we don't find that there are enough people doing that, then that's a very different situation than what we think. I'm hopeful. I think, it's funny. I've had a lot of people say to me, wow, you must love pickleball. And I will be honest, it's not like I've played here in the neighborhood. I hadn't played until last summer. And, I think it's a fun thing. I think it'd be a wonderful thing for Rowayton. And I would say, not just myself, but all of the people that are, volunteering their time on this, we're doing it not because we're, gung ho, pickleball advocates. We all think that it would be a wonderful thing for Rowayton. We're just trying to give back to the community.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you for keeping us updated. And I think, the fence is probably the biggest concern. And then if it does get really popular and we do finally go back to commuting, then parking is going to be the issue. But for now, proceed.
Tammy,
and-
I think there, it's gonna be so long before people start commuting back to New York.
I
That
agree.
even with the vaccine and all these companies, more and more companies are giving up their offices. I have more friends telling me they're packing up their offices. The companies are shutting down, closing down, going from 10 floors to 1. People are not going to be commuting anytime soon, 1. 2, I also think, Tammy, since we are the ones who initiated this idea, that you probably should call Craig Bordier and tell him, look, the parking lot's not being used. We're spending money to plow it, this and that. We want to try this experiment here and kind of, Drew has no leverage with him, kind of Craig Bordier owes us because we're the ones who do all this work for free for them. And they're trying to hand off all their messes to us and we've held off. And so I think we should just tell them we're going to be doing this
Is
Well,
Craig the
not
Metro North
ask
person?
and not ask for their permission.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. So just keep us posted when you're getting closer, Drew.
Okay. Is Craig the Metro North person? Is that,
Yes,
Yes.
he's DOT.
oh, DOT, okay.
It's really, it's the DOT. Metro North is just the train. DOT is the person that owns the parking lot.
Okay. Ed, would you like to meet out there one day and have me walk through with you what, in sort of in the real world as opposed to just
Sure.
a,
Yes,
Okay.
sure.
All
Yeah,
right.
let me know when you're going. Maybe I'll stop, come by as well.
Be happy
Yeah.
to do that.
Great.
Good. Next
All right.
week sometime?
Obviously, I will tell you, one of my expectations is that, to the extent that, I think Mike's probably right. But to the extent that, suddenly everybody is back commuting, I would expect that you're going to call me up and say, hey, Drew, you need to get the pickleball stuff out of the way. People are commuting again, and so, I'm not expecting that, we're going to have a priori rights, and if you want us to stay there, great. If you want us to move, that's something that we would understand. And one of the things we're going to say to everybody that pays money in is, this is a temporary thing. We don't know what's going to happen, and there's no promise that there will be pickleball at the train station for the long term.
Okay. Very good.
We'd love for something to happen at Bailey.
Susan.
All right.
I'm fine, thank you. Trying to get a little organized about Hilltop Board meetings. Is Jim out at a meeting?
Betsy, you're not muted.
That's,
I just muted her. I don't think she realized. I just muted her.
I do have to
Sorry
leave.
about
I'm
that.
going to play paddle tennis. Is there anything else that you guys needed from me?
no, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so then next up on the agenda is Ambler Parking Lot Expansion, Commissioner Barbas.
So as we've been talking about pretty much at every meeting, this project has been made, slow and steady progress, and we are very far along at this point. We have been in discussions with the city for the different approvals we need. The main one we need is the Conservation Commission, but we will also need approvals from the Department of Public Works and the Department of Planning and Zoning. We've talked to all three of those departments. We've modified our plans to meet all of those requirements. And we are getting closer and closer to make a formal application. I did hear back just this afternoon from our engineer. Our original plans had 19 new parking spaces being added, as well as a proper entrance and exit, which we do not currently have. Conservation made us revise this down to 16, and then the engineers working for our neighbor and easement owner at 140 Rowayton LLC came up with a plan, and we're now at 18. And it looks like we think we have a good chance of getting that approved. One question that had come up are trees, as we expand this and we change the entrance and the exit, we will have to take down trees. The first round of trees would be 15 trees, would need to come down. 10 of those have a caliper of 8 inches or less. So they're not big old trees by any means. And as part of our approval, we would replace all of those trees with river birch, dogwood, and red maple in equal amounts to what we lost, and even in addition to that. So I think we do have this easement with our neighbor, and we have to be even further along with the revision of that easement than we had thought. But we're making progress on that, but it's taking a little longer than we expected, but we're getting there. And at this point, we don't have the funds to start the work, so it's not like that we need the approval tomorrow, because we don't have the funds to do so just yet. So that's pretty much on Ambler. I think on the next topic is Bailey Beach drainage. We have, I don't know, we're going to do, what the engineers think is everything we want to do will be maintenance related. And as of right, this would mean continuing to hack away at all the Phragmites, which is an invasive, as well as digging out the drainage ditch, which will not have as big of an impact as we had originally hoped, but will still help. And the drainage pipes that exist around the Little League field and the tennis courts are not functioning at all, and we hope to replace those. All this is subject to regulation by the Department of Environmental Protection, which is a state agency, and they are actually coming to visit. The next big step now is they're coming to visit next week to review the site as part of our approval process. So that's actually moving along quite nicely, and we do have the funding for that already set aside, or we think we have enough funds set aside for that project. And I think the last update is on the summer of 2021. All three of the commissioners, we've been in a dialogue with the Rowayton Civic Association about events and looking at what Connecticut state regulations currently are. And outside events are capped at 500 people, which obviously makes planning, things like summer concerts and fireworks quite difficult. And we've really told the RCA, we don't think this will necessarily change and we need to plan accordingly. So that's still in the works. As part of that, I think we will maintain the kind of same social distancing policies that we had last year for now. And that would include having gate guards on the beach at all, whenever we're open, and limiting access to the beach when it's crowded. So I don't think the RCA still hasn't made decisions yet on their schedule of activities at Bailey, but the idea might be to kind of back end load those when more people have the vaccine, and these kinds of events will be more doable. And I think that's it. And we do have, I guess for the record, I should mention, this is 2021 is the 100th anniversary of the 6th taxing district. And we are planning a birthday party at Bailey Beach on September 18th.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Let's hope we're able to have a nice big celebration. All right, so then we'll go on to commissioner reports. Is anybody else on this meeting, like Chris or Garrett, do you have something specific that you wanted to bring up?
Not here, Tammy. Thank
Nope.
you.
Okay, Garrett?
Nope, not at all. Thank you.
No, okay, terrific. Thank you. Just thanks for joining and hanging out then. Okay, so we'll go on to commissioners' reports. Commissioner Agneri, do you have any updates for us? Anything in particular?
Not really. We're budgeting for Pinckney Park and improving the main house there, and we're looking at plantings and so forth, but it's a little too early to be looking at doing that work right now. So we'll wait for warmer weather.
Okay, very good. Any update on insurance issues that might be of interest to anybody?
No, I've not really. I'm trying to figure out how much our insurance is going up next year, and they've been very silent on that. So that's not a good sign. So
No.
okay. I don't have anything additional to report. Mike, do you have any other?
I do not at this point in time, I don't think.
Okay, I can always circle back. All right, then could we please hear from Gil, District Treasurer? Thank you.
Sure. Hey, I sent the commissioners a report of the bills paid for January 2021. As in the past, please review that and email that you've had a chance to review that. If you would, email copy is fine. The capital funds report project balances, I've given the commissioners a copy of that. And Andrea, you have that as well, I believe. And then the budget versus actual reports for January 31st for the fiscal 2021 year. We have those. Everything's in line with
Mike, can you silence whoever that is? Thank you. Sorry, Gil.
thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Mike. Everything is in line with seasonal expectations, revenue-wise, as well as expenses, with the exception we've talked about, or I've talked about many times, is the beach permits and entry fees were, severely impacted, obviously this year. And then the final audit report is for an event. We will be submitting that by the end of this month to the state of Connecticut, and we're on track. Tammy took care of some of the paperwork the other day, and with our auditors, so that's in line. And then the commissioners are making final changes to the 21-22 budget, and we anticipate that the tax increase for the 6th taxing district will remain under 3% and possibly closer to 2%, depending on some capital projects and the funding there. And that is pretty much it in general. And commissioners will take it offline, some of the information we have on the Ambler parking lot financing.
Okay, thank you very much, Gil. All
Thank
right,
you,
then can we please move on to the fire marshal and property manager reports?
Thank you, Tammy. Couple things just to mention on the fire marshal. Last month I reported about the smoke detectors that were going to be given out. We were going to be in conjunction with Norwalk, and the Norwalk fire marshal wrote the letter requesting those. Unfortunately, Bridgeport was had the winning letter, I guess you could say. So those detectors for Fairfield County went to the Bridgeport Fire Department. We did have I think I've mentioned this to some of you, we had a small outside fire on a porch towards the end of January, which was a result of the owner leaving fireplace debris in a bag on his porch. And I had explained to him, or I had said that the best thing to do is leave it in a metal can for 2 to 3 days away from the house. He was very apologetic. He was very, very grateful for the fire department. It was not a major fire. It did catch the shingles on the side of the house and very small. He was there. They put it out with a water hose prior to the fire department arrival, but we did check for extension, and so he had left it there on the porch because it was raining that night, and it was not long after he left it there that, and of course the wind was blowing. He saw the fire. So, and then the last thing is that we had the AED person, Chris Gardner from Wilton, who services the AED units. He came down today and replaced 3 batteries in the units, which were up. They were past their, they were up for their expiration. They're a 4-year battery, and one was very low, and the other 2 were just about out too. So those are all back in service.
Can you please remind us where those AED units are right now? I know none of them are outside. Where are the interior ones?
Right now, the one for the paddle court is in the restroom in the underground, the handicap restroom, and we got a new cabinet for that one, and that cabinet will be mounted on the wall, so it will be very visible. And then the other one for Pinckney Park is in the Pinckney Park outside restroom. If it's needed there, when Joanne is open, she has a key, or you're able to gain access to it. The other 2, the one for the outside of the firehouse is in the firehouse, and then the one that's on engine 2 is on engine 2. So we have 4 right now in the district.
Great. Okay, thank you.
I'll go on to the property manager report.
Yes, please.
Community center, we have not many split logs left. A lot of the residents have been taking them, which is good. And once the snow moves out, the fellows will be splitting more. The case for the ship model will be completed soon after the COVID orders are done. That's what I've been told by Wendell. And we did have a new nameplate was done, hand done by Norwalk sign, that has been done. Fire extinguishers were all inspected. I was not too pleased with how they were done this year. I put a call into the company, and one of the techs is coming back on Monday to go over those with me. The company was bought out by another company, and a larger company, and they doing things a little bit differently. So I expressed my feelings about that. Jason has been in contact with the electricians that installed the curtain heater. It's a curtain heater in the entry foyer of the community center where the old boardroom was. That is in need of repair. That's been repaired a couple of times already, but it is not currently putting out. It's electric heater in the ceiling, and it's not currently putting out the heat. Bailey Beach, there was a tailgate party held on Super Bowl Sunday. Everything was fine. The motor on the grease removal system for the concession is going to need to be replaced. I've been working in contact with a company that makes those, and I think we're going to need a new motor for it. It's about a $400 item. It's something I think that we can do ourselves. We can put it in. I've been on YouTube, and they have instructions how to replace those parts.
Didn't we have, or was it because of a flood that we had to replace that grease motor? I thought we did all that.
Mike, we thought, we called them right after the flood, and they said, oh yes, yes, you need. So Joe Gallo was in the concession at the time, and he was able to dry it out with a hairdryer. And but this last summer, it just stopped working when Diane was in there. And I'll just go on Bailey Beach. I just want to mention one thing. Michael Cobb, the pastor at the Methodist Church, is interested in having a Easter sunrise service on Easter Sunday, which is April 4th. And wanted to know if it would be possible with him, along with him and John Livingston. I hadn't talked to him. He talked to my wife, Peggy. But I think I would have him contact Andrea to see if that's, I don't know how the commissioners felt. It's about, I mean, obviously the number of people that would be attending is not that many. We would have, if we had breakfast at the firehouse, we may have 80 at maximum, but I know all of them don't come back to the firehouse. So I would say sometimes there may be 100 people, 120 people, but obviously they could, social distance. So I don't know how the commissioners feel about that. He had expressed an interest in having it.
I'm okay with it, Ed, and I'm sure people will stand socially distanced.
Yeah,
fine with
I'm
me.
sure they would. I'll have him get in touch with Andrea.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Mike and John, you guys okay with that?
Okay with that.
Thank you. Pinckney Park, we have been checking the house. Knock on wood, the heat has been fine. And we do have we did have that alarm system, the heat sensor tied into the alarm system if we did get a low temperature drop or if the furnace went off. So we're and Wendell's been there too. That's all I have.
Very good. All right, then could we please have the district clerk report?
Okay. Of course, I've got a paper stuck in my printer now, and I couldn't print it out, so I'll try to remember what I wrote. I sent a letter to Packer to confirm the permission to have a soccer camp at the community center at June 21st to 25th. Am I talking over someone? I shouldn't be? No. Okay.
I don't know who's on this call that's not silence. There's noise going on in the background, but anyway, go ahead, Andrea.
Okay, fine.
All right.
Talk over somebody was important. Anyway, the dates are June 21 through 25th, and June 28th through July 2nd. Everything's the same as the other years, except for the fact that if there's inclement weather, especially a thunderstorm with lightning, they would have to send the kids home. So they're going to have to make sure that the parents or whoever's taking care of the campers know that they have to be available on the split-second notice to come back and pick them up, because we don't want large groups coming into the community center because of the COVID threat, of course. I guess Tammy said she's talking to Lisa Anderson, who basically helps run the camp, and they're all on board for that. I also wrote a letter to Shakespeare on the Sound, confirming that you gave permission for them to have this kind of scaled down production of A Midsummer Night's Dream in Pinckney Park. They're going to initially use the Grace Room for rehearsals, May until sometime in June, and then only use that for inclement weather, and they'll rehearse at the park after that. But they're only putting up a little platform. It's not going to be a whole stage event. So they're hopeful that, you know, everything will go well and people stay distanced, and it will be a shorter production, an hour and a half, they estimate. Sorry about my voice. I seem to be losing it. Any question? No.
I just had a question for commissioners. Or you know, I know with groups going to use the community center. Andrea, you've been aware. We've had this cleaning service come in after they're there. Is this going to be something that the Shakespeare people are going to be responsible for?
I didn't tell them about that. I totally forgot, but I will. And
I think it'd be good to bring that to their attention.
Because they'll need to do that for each day, right?
Well, each day that they're there.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say if they're the only people using it for those however many days in a row, if nobody else is using it, it would seem unnecessary for them to clean it in between, because according to somebody on their board, they are creating their own little pod of actors and actresses, and they're all just staying together, just them. And I think, you know, they run on a fairly tight budget. So if they're the only people using it, I don't think we should have to charge them to clean it every day, Ed.
Okay, but just, you know, that Christina has her office there too. So she be, I'm not trying to make them pay, you know, just wanted to.
Yep. Well, that's a good
Somebody else is using
it.
it.
Upstairs, right?
They're asking to use it all day, basically. Every day except Mondays.
And Christina's office is off the Grace Room, right?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Oh, that little room back there.
Well, let's just make sure that they don't touch her door and stuff.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, that's fine, Tammy. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks for.
I think they should clean it after 1 week, or let them. I think it's a little bit more than a week that they're there.
Well, let
Just
them
let them
decide.
know
I
until
mean,
they're finished,
you're gonna
right?
have to do some cleaning, but I don't think they need to COVID clean every day if it's just them.
Okie doke. I'll let them know about that too. I have 2 bookings for the pavilion, one in May before the season starts, so there's no issue. The other one is on August 24th, I think, or something like that. But we don't know yet whether or not non-residents will be allowed on the beach, right?
Correct.
And that will be a last minute. So that's.
Well, I think, Andrea, the policy, you know, was non-residents could come in with a resident. But I
only one
think
resident with his family, you know, big family. Oh, unless she runs a shuttle with them all. Is that doable?
I mean, how big an event is this?
I'm sorry?
How big of an event is this?
I think they're 18 or so, 18 to 20.
Oh.
Not big. I'm trying to convince them to do it after September 15th, so there isn't any issue. But so far, no problem. Okay, and the land trust.
Make sure it's not on the day of the 6th taxing district celebration anniversary.
But that's on
September 18th.
18th.
September 18th. This is, okay, I'll put that on the
Yeah,
calendar.
block that out on the calendar, Andrea. No rentals of the pavilions, no events at Bailey Beach that day.
September 18th, nothing then. Okay, and Norwalk Land Trust had me put an event on the calendar on September 24th. They're at Farm Creek Reserve. They're having a solstice gathering from 6 to 9. So that's their business, but it's on the calendar. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Andrea.
Welcome.
I just want to backtrack and mention our composting program. It's going really well. The city in total, between our location and the other location over at Fodor Farm, has removed from the trash stream over 30 tons of food scraps. So that's really good. So residents in Rowayton, and I think other residents from neighboring communities, come and use our compost buckets. And that's going really well. So we hope it continues to be successful. Another thing I'd like to just mention is, Andrea, I know you have a copy of the new, the current lease that we're entered in with Al Carey, AFK. It goes through 2023.
Right.
And I think we typed all of the specific holidays that AFK does not pick up trash in that lease. So I'd like to get that posted on the district website, because people keep asking about trash all the time. And I think it would just clarify for everybody, and it will be up there. So if you could please provide that to Mike or me, so we can get that posted on the website.
I will, both of you.
Thank you.
Whatever holidays he
Right, we retyped the lease for AFK from 2020 to 2023.
Okay. I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up? No? All right, so would the commissioners like to stay a few minutes if the treasurer has a few minutes to review just some final details on the budget and for our budget meeting next Wednesday, a week from today? I should also make that announcement. We are having the annual budget meeting by Zoom, starting at 7:30 p.m. as our charter requires on Wednesday, March 3rd. And are you guys okay just staying for a few minutes to talk with Gil, and everybody else can finish up? John and Mike?
I can for a second, but I actually have a dinner to go to, so I can't do it too long.
Okay, well, hopefully we don't have more than a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, so thank you, everybody else. You can leave the meeting. And
Thank you, Tammy.
thank you, and Andrea
I can go too.
and Chris, thank you.